Food is a social experience. But what happens when our social connections are impacted by shelter in place? Today, we talk with Angus Brown about how the hospitality industry is changing due to COVID-19. Is it safe to be in a retirement facility right now? What innovations in delivery and food expression have been developed to handle this crisis? We uncover how seniors are staying safe, engaged, and nourished as we are processing how we innovate hospitality. When I was a kid, every Sunday I couldn't wait to grab the Oregonian newspaper from my dad to turn to the funny paper section. On Sunday, there's like a color explosion of comics on the black and white newspaper. For context, the newspaper is how old people got news back in the day. And my favorite comic was Calvin and Hobbes. It was about a 7-year-old boy, Calvin, and his stuffed tiger, Hobbes. It made me imagine a different world. I loved the idea of a 6-foot tiger pal walking around with me. One Sunday, the comic blew my mind. It followed a storyline where Calvin didn't make the t-ball team. He was tired of organized sports, is what he was. And so he created Calvin Ball. Calvin Ball only had one rule. Rules couldn't be used twice. So in one comic, the goal was to capture the opponent's flag. In another comic, it was to score points by hitting a badminton shuttlecock with a croquet mallet. This was my kind of sport. You know, I was ready. And when Jeff Grimm came over this next Wednesday, we were going to play Calvin Ball. So on Wednesday, I showed him the comic, and I was like, let's get going, let's start playing. And the game lasted about 3 minutes. And so we were playing Transformers, and my mom came up and she's like, what happened to Calvin Ball? And Jeff Grimm explained, Calvin Ball has no rules. It needs goals to be built from scratch. And these goals can be undercut at any moment by any opponent. We would rather play with Transformers. Because Calvin Ball isn't fun. It's kind of like parents' real life. I loved the idea of a game with open imagination, but then we tried it, and it was more like fighting. When the rules get changed on us, it isn't really like the funny papers. We feel clumsy, we feel awkward, and we really just want to go back to playing Transformers, something that we know. So whether it's a bad ref in a basketball game or a loved one with failing health, when we can't rely on our set expectations, it's difficult to find the fun. During this pandemic, our rules have changed on us. And we are in a space where we need to make up new rules so that we can connect again safely. So that's our challenge today. How do we connect and still have fun during this pandemic? How do we rethink activities so that bring us together so that we can stay connected and cared for? Okay, so I am going to play a video of ways people are innovating food and connection all over the world. Today, we have Angus Brown.
Hello.
Hello. Angus is a VP of National Accounts with Morrison Living, which is a division of Compass Group, which is the world's largest hospitality company. Angus, What is Morrison Living, and what is the story behind your role?
Oh, hey, thanks for having me, Jeff. This is really cool. So Morrison Living's been around for 100 years. It's a 100-year-old company with a history in communal dining, going back to cafeterias in the South, where families would venture out and have food in the Morrison cafeterias, and through um, the fulfillment of a need in the marketplace, Morrison became Morrison Healthcare and started serving hospitals in parts of the country, and really evolved into what we are today, which is Morrison Living. We also still have our healthcare division, but my company that I work for serves retirement communities all over the nation. And we are essentially the hospitality services partner for those communities, serving food, nourishing residents. And we also provide support services by way of housekeeping, laundry, maintenance, grounds, etc. But our wheelhouse is food. And again, as a 100-year-old food service company, we've been doing it for a while. So a lot of experience there.
How'd you get involved with it?
The short story is, following the Great Recession, like so many people, I had to reinvent myself, and I found myself working in retirement living. I was very fortunate to go to work for a company based here in Oregon. And then I was recruited off LinkedIn to work for the Compass Group in their Morrison Living sector as a direct seller for them, and became vice president of national accounts last year. So I focus on building partnerships with organizations that are multi-site and have more than one community in their organizational portfolio. It's a lot of fun, and been in the senior living game now for 10 years. So
Okay, so senior living, is it kind of dangerous to be in a care facility right now like that?
well, it depends on a lot of factors, Jeff. And it depends on what articles you're reading in which newspapers.
Okay, okay.
But I think I could make an argument that a retirement living environment is probably one of the safest environments you could be in right now, given that there are safety and sanitation protocols at play. Obviously, we know that the COVID-19 virus is more severe among certain populations, older adults being one, folks with comorbidities being another. So the propensity for a virus to spread in an environment like that, a communal living environment, has, obviously significantly comes into play. But, another factor is really the amount of funding and resources available to any given community. Retirement living, there are 15,000 nursing homes north of that, actually, in this country. And many of those are funded by state and federal programs, and quite frankly, in many cases, not funded well. So you can imagine, with a lack of funding and a lack of resources, the safety of the residents in those environments is going to be in jeopardy. So, again, it really does depend, and I think it'll be really telling to see where this all shakes out by way of incidences in retirement living environments, and at what level of funding, what level of care or acuity, if you will, and some of the other determining factors that come into play when any sort of infectious disease makes its way behind the walls or inside the doors of a community. As an industry, we really need to pound on our chests and say, hey, we're doing some really great work here that needs attention. I think we just have a culture as a society to really kind of focus in on the scary and the negative at times.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been some really negative articles using some very negative and inflammatory language. Like there was an article that went national and was in, I believe, the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune, among many others, that referred to nursing homes as death traps. Nursing homes are not death traps. I will say that for a fact. I've been in this game for a decade, and nursing homes are full of people that are working really hard to care for their residents. Where the danger rises, and where this article that I read pointed out some of these higher infection rates and death rates, that comes into play again when you have communities that are underfunded, understaffed, and quite frankly, a forgotten segment of our healthcare system that is already so, in such peril, right? So it really does matter where these dollars go, and it does matter how the state and federal governments treat these communities, because in times like this, people's lives are even more at stake than ever before. And where you see these high infection rates and these high death rates, there will be a correlation with the resources that were put into those communities and have been being put into those communities at dangerously low levels for quite some time.
Gotcha.
So that's a long answer to a rather short question.
Yeah.
But I think our industry has an opportunity to shine and show the rest of the world that these community environments are so beneficial and safe for residents in so many ways, and we need to continue to fund them and support them and be champions for those environments.
Okay, so there's a lot of layoffs going on right now. How's your company dealing with that? How are they changing the game? What's going on?
Yeah, so Compass Group is the largest hospitality services company in the world, and the majority of Compass's business globally is here in North America. And with schools and universities and businesses and sports venues closing down, obviously our business has receded significantly, and folks are out of work. You're not going to a Blazer game tonight. And so there are folks who work at the Moda Center during the sports season, and who work at the Timbers Stadium for Compass Group, and who work at University of Portland, just to name a few local folks that are out of work. So we're using our Compass resources to, whenever we can and wherever we can, reallocate some of those folks and move them into the environments where we still are working to keep folks nourished. And that would be obviously in community living, senior living environments, as well as hospital and healthcare environments. There's not enough work, obviously, in those sectors for everybody to go around when you're talking about over 250,000 associates nationally. But we are in a position to help those folks stay employed and stay working, as well as help organizations who have seen people leave due to illness, or due to the fact that they have to take care of their school-age children, or due to the fact that they just don't feel comfortable working in a clinical environment, which is, again, back to our earlier conversation, a reality as well. So, we've deployed digital labor pooling resources where folks can access our labor pool through an application on their phones, on their smartphones. And conversely, operations leaders can reach out to associates in that manner as well. So, technology has been key for us in that regard.
Wow. That's pretty intense to move from, working at the Moda Center to working at a care facility. How has that transition been for those labor pool people?
Yeah, I'll speak specifically to an individual that was redeployed in Northern California. This particular individual is a leadership level person, but worked for Wolfgang Puck Catering, so more in obviously a non-clinical setting. But he sprung into action. We had an opening at a retirement community in San Francisco, right in the city. And he went in and helped us. And, leadership is leadership, right? And managing a food service program at a sports venue or a school is really about, making sure that the hot food's hot and the cold food's cold, and that the folks that need to be scheduled are scheduled, and that we're making sure that we're, that things are clicking and humming and moving forward as they should be. And you know what? He did just that. He stepped into the role and helped us on an interim basis. And, that's one real life example of somebody kind of coming into our world. The thing about food service, Jeff, is that, hospitality is hospitality. And it used to be when we were kids. I don't know if you had this experience. I think you went to Dunaway. I went to Edwards Elementary in Southeast Portland. We would march to the local nursing home and we had kind of an adopted grandparent. This was over in the Laurelhurst neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very clinical environment, even as a kindergartner and first grader, as I had a 1 or 2 year relationship with my adopted grandmother there at that nursing home. It was, it felt very clinical and it didn't feel like hospitality, right? It didn't feel like you felt when you went to Elmer's on Sunday with your grandparents, right?
Right.
That's changed significantly.
Okay.
So when I use the word hospitality and I talk about, the experience that you and I would have if we went to have lunch on campus at U of P, there are similarities when we go and have lunch on campus over at Terwilliger Plaza, which is one of our partners here in the Portland market. It's an experience. It's as you said on the onset of this time together, it's an opportunity to come together as a community, and food's at the centerpiece. And we do that every single day in our normal life, so there's enough of a common thread, or I like to use the term, there's enough similar DNA when you look at food service in one environment to the other, to where folks can make that leap. And a lot of people want to, because it's that or, be out of work. So, it's also a choice.
Well, and one of the things that you, in our conversation, I think what you articulated was maybe a transition that has happened in maybe a couple decades. The change from the clinical feeding the masses to, making sure that people are nourished and cared for, and you're probably taking notes from different restaurants. Oh, that's a great restaurant. That was a great experience. I want that for my residents.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. Here's what drives it. It's what the residents want, and it's what our partners envision for their brand and for the experience that they go to market with.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand these communities, these retirement communities. It's not where people are going to ride off into the sunset. Folks are going there to live their lives, and they want to experience. They want to have some joy around everything that they do, and food's such a key part of that. So it's not feeding the masses. We don't have folks lining up with trays and moving down the tray line, right? This is, you sit down, you grab your menu, you take a look, you order what you want, and a few moments later it comes to you. And there has been a change, even in the time that I've been in this industry over the last 10 years. There has been a change, and it will continue to evolve. And COVID-19 will continue to cause us to evolve, because, we can no longer take for granted, loose social distancing and, gathering of folks in tight spaces. So we're going to have to adapt and be ready for what the world will look like on a go forward for us.
Okay, so food is a social experience. It demands people to kind of come together, be closer than 6 feet apart. How have you guys had to rethink this expression?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously safety is at the forefront, right? So keeping everyone safe. We got to keep our residents safe first and foremost. We have to keep our associates safe. So, just right away, protocols went into place to make sure that folks were staying safe and that we weren't messing around. It was, dining rooms were closing, venues were closing, room service in effect. But then,
Okay, well,
you
no,
kind
tell
of,
me that. That's big. Room service
hmm
in effect. That was
hmm
pretty big.
yeah, well, yeah, that's a huge deal because, we always offer room service. If you want to eat in your apartment or your room, you can eat in your room.
Okay,
You get what, you're the member, you're the resident, you're the client.
okay.
But when, you go to a full room service model, well, that requires some significant logistical hurdles to be, jumped over.
Mm.
Everything from having the right mechanisms, the paper products, to taking the orders, to fulfilling the orders, to keeping the food at temperature, staffing that, making sure that you have the right number of associates. So, I guess I need to be careful because I don't want to make this sound like it was an easy task.
Yeah.
I'm a business development guy. We've got operators out there that work on our teams that were working day and night to deploy those systems,
Mm.
again, with the residents' safety and their health and well-being at the core of everything that we did. But as time has gone by, we've obviously continued to practice those safety measures, but also, it became evident very quickly that, for a lot of residents in our communities, that lunch, that dinner time service, that's their highlight of their week or their day, where they have that Tuesday night, get together with their friends,
Yeah.
or maybe it's a daily thing. So working to figure out how to keep residents engaged with each other, and still, using food to brighten people's spirits. It is, if you're by yourself or you're with your friends, you still have to eat.
Yeah.
And our job was to make sure that it was fun and engaging, and teams all over the country are continuing to get creative with doing that. So it's neat.
There was a story you told me about how some of your residents can cook,
hmm
and you're using different methods for teaching that cooking. Can you
Yeah.
tell me more about that?
Sure. Yeah. Depending on the environment, retirement communities offer varying levels of living, with independent living and assisted living folks having access to their own kitchens and the ability to cook themselves food. Just like, you or me, I can cook, but I don't have a pretty deep repertoire, right? my cooking resume is short, but luckily for me, I'm somewhat coachable, so I can be taught, and a lot of residents are in that same boat. And some of my best friends in our organization, some of my favorite people, don't tell the registered dietitians, but some of them are chefs.
Oh.
And everybody loves the guy or the gal in the white jacket,
Mm.
and one of my favorites is our senior corporate executive chef. He's a dear friend of mine, love him like a brother, Brian Johnston out of San Diego. You put him in his white coat in front of a group of residents, and look out, because they're going to have a fun time. He's engaging, he's funny, he's knowledgeable, and he's just a magnificent chef. So we have a platform that was created by Compass Group in correlation with Culinary Institute of America, the other CIA, and it's called a teaching kitchen.
Huh.
Now, in its pure form, and its original form, a teaching kitchen would allow residents or students at a school or I've seen one at Google on campus in Mountain View down in the Bay Area. Googlers to come into that environment, and there's a chef there, and there is a curriculum, there are ingredients, there are cooking utensils, there is a heat source, usually an induction heat source that's safer than gas or electric. And folks hit their station, and chef is at the front of the room, and chef is teaching you how to make your toasted quinoa salad or whatever it might be, right? Or we talked about the avocado mousse, avocado chocolate mousse, whatever the dish is. So, we can't do that right now. You can't go into a teaching kitchen and work with a chef right now, because we have to stay socially distanced, and we have to keep folks safe. So we deployed virtual teaching kitchens. Just like you and I are on Zoom right now, we put a chef on Zoom. We gave people a login, camera set up, chef's got everything, deployed all of the necessary ingredients, necessary utensils to the residents that wanted to participate, and boom, teaching kitchen starts, and they're in their own private environment, but they're able to log in and learn how to cook. What's cool is those, just like you're recording this right now, we were able to record those teaching kitchens so we can redeploy some of that content to residents. So think about that reach. If you have a teaching kitchen in a community, let's say you did one every hour for 8 hours with a lunch break. You could maybe do 8 of those in a day. Your chefs would be just absolutely annihilated from an energy standpoint. But you might be able to get, let's say you did 10 people per class, you might be able to get 80 people, maybe on the more aggressive side, maybe 90 people through that one teaching kitchen. Well, the video platform, you talk about the technology and the use of it will allow us to reach so many more folks and enrich their day in that way. It doesn't have to be live to be fun. And that's what we're learning. So that's one aspect. And I think, there's more to come on that. We're still feeling our way through this and trying to figure out what's doable. We have celebrity chefs that work with Compass Group that have engaged with residents through video messaging. Just this last week, Chef Jet Tila, actually, I believe it was this week, who's a Food Network star and a well-renowned chef out of the Los Angeles area, sent some messaging out to residents. It's just cool. It's just good stuff. And again, it all ties back to food, and everybody loves the guy or the gal in that white jacket, like I said, so there's power in that too. Let's bring smiles to their faces.
He's the new celebrity.
Yeah.
Okay, so you also told me that as you're having to innovate hospitality, and you told me, you're like, that's what we do. That's what we have done. And that's what we have to continue to do. What did that look like before COVID? And what does that look like now?
I think before COVID, innovation was really just kind of the ticket to entry for us, as far as, you're only going to be as good as your last meal, and you can't get comfortable, and you can't allow yourself as a hospitality company to be stagnant. Think about your own experiences. You probably have your favorite restaurants. I have mine. When I go to certain restaurants, there are those where I want that same dish every time because I go there for that. And there are others that I go to just, all right, what's going to be on the menu this time? Let's try, because there's that level of innovation and creativity. So we have to have a blend of that as a hospitality partner and as a company that, is really serving a segment of the population that, quite frankly, deserves whatever they want. Because our residents, they're retired, they've worked hard to get where they are. In some cases, maybe they're recovering from a surgery, or, they're in poor health. So they definitely deserve what they want as well. So, we have to have that balance between innovation and consistency. But as I mentioned with my story about the kindergarten and first grade walks over to the retirement community in Laurelhurst, we're no longer that institutional environment in senior living. We are very much a hospitality forward environment. So it's up to us to keep tabs on trends. It's up to us to understand what residents want and expect. And it's up to us to bring the shine. So pre-COVID, that's really, I think a fair summary of just how we work and how we operate. It's too soon to tell, if I'm being honest, what post-COVID looks like, but I know that this is obviously such a big game changer for us that, we're going to really have to rethink everything from the environments within which we serve our residents to the way we serve our residents, and obviously what we serve them. We're already a company that takes food safety and sanitation extremely serious, and leave no margin for error in that area. But what do those protocols and what are those expectations, and how does that change the way we staff our operations, and how does that change the way we approach certain operations? That will remain to be seen, I think. And then I think, just continuing to be a partner to the folks that we are aligned with, right? Like I used Terwilliger Plaza earlier. They have a few hundred residents over there, and they're expanding. There's an expansion project underway. What do the dining elements of those expansion projects look like post-COVID? How can we help influence those decisions? How can we ensure that the resources and time and commitment around hospitality in those expansion projects are executed to the standards they need to be executed to post-pandemic? That's the type of thing I think, you don't necessarily think of innovation in that regard, but it certainly is. We have to be students of our industry and masters at the same time. We have to learn what's coming at us as quickly as we can, master it, and then deploy strategies that are in alignment with it.
So you shared with me the things that you're doing a little bit different, like concerts. You're doing pizza delivery. Is there any of those things that you want to share?
Yeah, that's the fun, sexy stuff, right? Like, the innovation around redesigning dining venues is certainly important, and more of maybe a blocking and tackling type of an approach. But, today, right now, how can we keep our residents engaged? How can we brighten their day? And again, I point to the teams. I have to say this. I don't know who will see this interview, Jeff, but I try to say this anytime I talk about what's happening out in the real world. The work that our teams are doing to keep residents safe, but to also keep them engaged and keep them nourished and keep them, taken care of, is just nothing short of spectacular. And it's just amazing to see. I'm lucky enough because I get to see it in my work feed on Workplace by Facebook, and also in my email, and also on our website from time to time. So I'm close to it, but they're kind of unsung heroes, man. Okay. And there's a, the pizza delivery story is a cool one. I don't know about you, but when a pizza shows up at my door, like, that's Christmas. It's just like, and then you open the box and the smell wafts up at you.
So what is that? Tell me what happened.
Yeah. So, you and I we could still order a pizza, right? But a lot of these retirement communities maybe don't have access to pizza delivery. And we had a community down in the Bay Area that built out a mini pizzeria in their community, kind of a pop-up pizzeria. And then the chefs there created just some great homemade pizzas, and started doing pizza deliveries to the residents there. And there was a kind of that story popped up in the Workplace by Facebook feed that I was talking about, and a lot of positive feedback. Again, that's one example. I know we just had Cinco de Mayo, so there were some margarita deliveries at one community I saw, where folks could order
Those are always good.
margaritas. Yeah, and I have a feeling that may carry into the rest of May at that community. But it's just, again, Jeff, I mean, these are the types of things that we've always done. It's just a change. Hey, Crystal, we can make that happen for you. I don't know if you saw that. Crystal wants a margarita. I'm making margaritas right after this call, actually. But, these are the things we've always done. I think it's just at a heightened level now with regards to that engagement piece, and it's stretching our teams to figure out, how to keep residents engaged and happy during this time. So,
is there anything that you are seeing, with the things that you're deploying that you're like, oh, I want to try that, in my life? Is there anything that you've tried out because of the ideas that are coming through in your work?
So, not yet, but there are some things in the queue. My daughter Madison and I are going to try the avocado chocolate mousse. That comes from a Compass sector called Envision Group, and Envision Group has a myriad of online resources, recipes, videos, on and on, different levels of web-based engagement resources that residents can use. And when I was clicking through, I was being introduced to what Envision Group had cooked up, and the chocolate avocado mousse popped up, and I'm like, I've had that before, and it's great. So next time we talk, I'll let you know if Madison and I were able to pull that off. Madison's pushing me on the baking front. We did banana bread a couple weeks ago, and we're going to try the mousse. So, and I think the pizza thing is cool. I've always kind of wanted to make my own pizza. I've never really, I think one time when I was a kid, we got the boboli. Remember those pizza crusts? And it just, it fell flat. It didn't go too well when I was a kid. So I've never revisited making my own pizza, but certainly, would be open to trying to make my own pizza here at home.
What has been most, go for it.
I was just going to say, I encourage everybody, whether or not you consider yourself a weapon in the kitchen or somebody who's maybe a little more, like I kind of stick to what I know in the kitchen or around the barbecue, but, I encourage everybody, now's the time to maybe try to branch out, and there are tons of resources out there. I think you may be able to access some of them on the Compass Group site, but certainly like Food Network and others, Martha Stewart, there are just tons of resources out there on the internet to turn yourself into a force to be reckoned with in the kitchen.
What's been most surprising during this crisis for you?
Specific to our industry, I don't know if it's surprising, because I've always said that, not always, but now that I've gotten a little grayer in the muzzle and I've been around for a while, I've been saying for a while that this is an industry that requires a certain heart. It's hard work, but it's more heart work than it is hard. You've got to be in it from a spiritual perspective, and when I heard stories, I heard a CEO from an Oregon-based company, and the name of it's escaping me. His name is Dan Williams, I believe. And he said in an interview that he was working to secure PPE and had contacted his, I guess, for lack of a better term, opponents in the industry, or his it's getting late in the day here. He contacted the folks that his competitors. There we go. Bingo. He contacted his competitors and worked to secure PPE as a group, because, there's strength in numbers. And he worked to secure PPE with folks that he would normally be competing against for business, because that was the right thing to do. So, we're seeing collaborations and coalitions among competitors in the marketplace. Again, not surprising, but certainly heartwarming to see that. I think from a business perspective, we haven't talked a ton about the business side of this, but at the onset of this, Jeff, I was wondering if I was going to be able to continue working. If I was going to be able to continue to conduct business. I'm on the business development side of the world, and I am responsible for driving forward big projects that align us with big organizations. And I didn't know if those organizations would want to continue to explore those opportunities. And the reality is that they have, because I think this time has really, shown a bright light on what can be accomplished if organizations align themselves with strategic partners like us. So that, again, not necessarily surprising, but definitely a revelation, that even during a crisis, leaders within organizations are seeking to make their organization better, right? Mm-hmm. And that's been pretty cool to see. And obviously it's kept me employed, which has been nice to be able to continue to do what I love and work in the industry that I love working in.
Great. So the comments in here, obviously people are interested in having some margarita deliveries. There's Crystal said, her mom used to be the activities coordinator for a retirement home, and she loved finding ways to bring joy and engagement to the residents. And she loves that you're sharing this.
Oh, that's awesome.
And for those with loved ones who live in retirement homes and can't currently visit, do you have any thoughts or ideas on how we can continue to help them feel engaged?
Oh, that is such a great question. The video you showed had a woman, a senior, with an iPad. I know that not everybody has access to that type of technology, but many do. I have heard that for folks that don't have access to smartphones or internet connected devices, that the communities they live in have been working to make that available. So, connecting through technology is obviously key. And then old school, man, who doesn't love getting mail? Writing letters, sending cards. There have been letter writing campaigns and card sending campaigns all over the country to folks. And I can't point in a specific direction as far as an organization that is really spearheading those initiatives. But locally, if you're in your community and you go on the internet and you reach out to any one of these retirement communities, say, hey, I'd like to send some cards or letters and brighten your residents' days. How do you want, how can I do that? Because it'd be neat. There's HIPAA regulations and things like that, but it'd be neat if you could personalize some stuff like that. I don't know if you could do that through HIPAA, but send cards. Beyond that, I think most communities are doing a really good job of keeping people engaged. You see, obviously, the negative stuff on the news. There's some of that out there. There are folks that are unfortunately deeply isolated. But my feeling is that not so much in a retirement community. It is just that it is a community. People care. People are really working hard to make sure folks are staying connected. On the margarita note, before I forget, there's a business here in my neighborhood that I've used. It's a silver julep. So note that down, silver julep. I don't know the folks personally, but they do live over here in the Selwood Westmoreland community, and they deliver pre-mixed mixes and cocktails, and I know that margaritas are on their list. Yeah, I think you can find them on the internet, and you can find them on Instagram, which is pretty cool. It's a small business that normally would be this time of year, they'd be doing corporate parties, weddings, and events probably every day. They have an Airstream trailer they converted to a mobile bar, and that's their business. They'd be out there. They obviously can't do that. They pivoted and went to a cocktail service delivery, or cocktail delivery service. So there you go. That's
spectacular.
That's a little inside tip. And you know, I'm plugging them for free. You know, that's just the kind of guy I am. Maybe they'll send me a free bottle of margarita mix.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Hey, is there anything you'd like to end with in regards to your thoughts or things that you want to put out there?
You know, yeah, I think, you know, for a lot of people our industry, the retirement living industry, you know, a lot of people interact with their loved ones that may live in retirement communities. I know Crystal said her mom was an activities coordinator there. But I feel like oftentimes we're an industry that, you know, kind of flies under the radar to some degree. So, you know, the future, you know, the baby boomer generation is rapidly moving into, you know, retirement age, and the need for quality care for seniors is more important now globally, but certainly here in the United States than it ever has been. And it's just going to continue to be more and more important that you know, the appropriate amount of resources and effort and care are put into this part of our healthcare system to ensure that folks, as they age, are cared for at the highest level. It's just super important. And if I have since you gave me the mic and I have a chance to say it, that's definitely what I'd like to end on. And
Cool.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Angus, for doing this with us, kind of opening up the idea of how we innovate hospitality and how you guys are doing that and caring for the seniors that you care for. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, everyone. Take care, Jeff.
Bye.